Okay, so first, before this video starts, I should probably explain what this whole Yuzoa thing is. But I also have a small announcement to make. So I'll do both at the same time. For those of you who haven't heard yet, we have been working on a small world building experiment, which we have named Project Regenesis. CrowdMate is basically, we've created a whole world and have populated it with nations and cultures. So if you want in this video, I'm going to be giving a quick overview of said cultures and nations. Be sure to unfortunately, of course, I'm going to have to skip over quite a few nations because there are 45 of them actually, only a fraction of whom having any actual info on them. I'll be making more videos about this world, and if this video does well, I might even make it into a series on the channel. By the way, quick disclaimer. This is Yuzhoua. It is a planet populated by basically all the same kinds of life that populate Earth. In terms of basically everything other than history and culture, just pretend that it's still Earth, but with arbitrarily different landmasses. Of course, one glaring difference between Yuzhoua and Earth is that most of Yuzhoua's land is actually made up of one continent. That being the supercontinent of Ukes, all surrounded by the Arabian Ocean. Ukes is home to 7.2 billion people, with only 200 million living on all the other islands. Also, here's a Köppen climate map for all you nerds out there. Thanks to Sam Arano for that, by the way. Be sure to subscribe to his channel. Of course, there are also other smaller landmasses, including the island of Cioria, the Kamana archipelago, and the pretentiously named island of Gran Zavira. Of course, just because the world's landmass is now in the form of a supercontinent, doesn't mean that there aren't still huge geographic divides. For geographic simplicity, Ukes is traditionally divided into 3 regions: Draha in the northwest, Hakuna in the center, and the Tauri Peninsula in the south, with these regions being separated from one another by various mountains and deserts. Starting in Draha, we see the New Lunian nations Fostaria, Ukaistris, Libyan, Kavaria, Gohtaria, Gawasanea, Grüniger, and Cortesia. In the far northern reaches, we see the 5 Nulu republics of New Lunia proper, West New Lunia, Odenheis, Grüniger, and the city-state of Fya. These 5 countries all have a more or less similar history and culture to each other, starting as a group of fur hunters on the Great Northern Lakes, though have never truly been united under one government, at least not if you count the Great Northern Economic League, a trading bloc established between the 5. The big power on Draha, however, is the Federation of Libyan, a multicultural federation established around 800 years ago as a union of several different city-states within the area. Nowadays, Libyan is by far the dominant power of Draha and is arguably a world superpower, holding great sway over international politics. Hakuna, separated from Draha by the Sura Mountains, is the biggest and by far the most populated region on the planet. Within Hakuna are the Maximedian Lakes, them being Lakes Ilus, Kuzil, and Taria, and the Mazan Sea. These lakes essentially made the Hakuni Plain civilizations, and have been a hotspot for civilizations since the dawn of agriculture. Much of the region was once under the control of many different empires, the most prolific of which being the Kori Empire, which thrived for over 1,000 years before coming to an abrupt ending in the early 2nd century. Yeah, by the way, we're just going to use the Gregorian dates to keep things simple. Just assume it's 2019 on Yuzhoua. Or 2020 if you're watching this a month from now. Or if you're watching this in the more distant future, 2057. Hi guys, just didn't want to forget about you guys. The Kori Empire was centered in the capital city of Korsis, which is now the capital city of Ebra, a nation relatively recently formed out of Susava, today often said to be one of the most highly advanced cultures in the world, with a long history of exploration and technological development. East from Susava is Rekia, the kingdom which ended the Kori Empire before themselves being split up and put back together. The Bataga Republic, Greater Palatinia Republic, Artesia, and Karpaty to the north are all part of the Alliance of the Orient, an economic/political alliance formed in 1895 as a kind of mutual defense and trade bloc. Nearby Ebra and Silanguba are also observer states of the alliance. They even have their own currency, known as the Oriental Jade. In the offshore mountains to the north of the Maximedian Lakes is Achtalstan, a massive desert nation home mainly to the Yachtal and also to the Trahan, a horseback culture indigenous to the steppes of their own homeland, Trahania. The most serene Republic of Baryon once had a small colonial empire, having reached its territorial height in 1890, though nowadays they're mostly neutral and non-confrontational in their actions. Moving to the west and toward the coast of the Markazi Sea we see the Greater Ohorian Technocracy, nestled within the Suar Mountains. Now, a technocracy refers to a republic in which representatives are selected primarily through their expertise in particular fields, namely science and technology. Thus, in the GOT, the right to vote is only given to those deemed knowledgeable in a particular field. To the south of Ohoria is Bazia, a nation which has very closely clung to the culture of the Kori Empire, often liking themselves as a successor to the empire. Now we reach the Tauri Peninsula, home to just 5 nations: Danelia, Sitaresk, Chayan, and Karparia. Danelia is a coastal nation made up of several different sections dotting the West Ikuni coast. The nation was once a colony of the nearby island nation of Seoria, which itself was settled in the 4th century BC by refugees from the Markazi Empire in its final days during the siege of Iskandar by the Kori Empire. Once they got to Seoria, they assimilated with the natives and eventually created their own, quite isolatory nation. Well, except of course for the Seorian Reconquista, which created Danelia in the first place. Sitaresk is a somewhat newer nation founded by the Sitaresks, a formerly tribal country who developed into a kingdom of their own within the last 1,000 years, eventually being granted their own sovereign country after the 9 Years' War, a major war fought throughout the whole world. Yeah, it's basically just both world wars put into one. Look, if you think you're seeing historical parallels in this world, yeah, you are. Karparia is a massive and powerful nation which commands a lot of power over their corner of Ukes, and the international community as a whole, being one of the world's other superpower nations. Their capital city is Wila, and the country of Karparia was founded in the 1750s, actually by a group of colonists from the Metillic Empire. Through years of war and conquest, Karparia eventually grew to encompass most of the Tauri Peninsula, and today is a very diverse nation, mainly consisting of Karparians, Sitaresks, and Tuila, who are a largely tribal culture that lives off the Southern Ocean, known for establishing semi-permanent bases in the southern ice caps. The one place Karparia was never able to incorporate, however, was Chayan, a small yet highly divided and often unstable country kind of jutting off from the Tauri Peninsula. Previous Karparian attempts to conquer Chayan have ended less than fortunately. Chayan is quite culturally different from the rest of the Tauri Peninsula too, and their origins have been somewhat of a mystery to anthropologists. Lastly, just so we don't have to leave them out, we also have the island nations of Karmanaya or Kamana Aura, Dafabid, and the Grand Zavira nations of Tirzavira and Barkalor. Kamana Aura is a nation based on the Kamana archipelago, often hailed as the descendants of the Palagan Empire, which thrived at around the same time as the Kori Empire did, and should not be confused with Patika. Dafabid is a country not far off the coast of Draha, whose culture largely stems from the ancient Dafabs. Finally, Tirzavira and Barkalor are 2 quite culturally similar nations who share the island of Grand Zavira, like 2 conjoined twins who don't really want much to do with each other. So please, let me know what you think about all this. If you want to find out more about this world and maybe even contribute to the project, feel free to check out the wiki in the description. Now, this isn't going to become a world-building channel anytime soon, but I'm personally having a lot of fun with this project, and would really like to move it further on, especially as a way to talk about how different aspects of geopolitics work in the real world. I'll be making a follow-up video about Yuzoan history in a couple weeks, though if this video does well, I might even make it next week. Though keep in mind these videos do pay for my bills, so if I get too many videos that tank in a row, I'm kind of screwed. Sponsors, please do get in touch. Also, did you know I have a Patreon? And by the way, do not be surprised if this video gets outdated pretty quickly. This is an evolving scenario that we're all still working on. If anything does change drastically after this video is posted, I'll mention it in the pinned comment. Thanks for watching, and once again, if you want to be a part of this project, do be sure to check out the wiki and join the KhAnubis Discord server, which is where all the planning is really taking place. Man, I really haven't mentioned them in a while. Anyways, please be sure to give this video a like if you want to see more of these videos, be sure to check out our holiday merch on sale right now, and I'll see you next Sunday. And subscribe so you do so.